So are you looking for a deeper understanding of this full moon in Cancer energy? Well, in this video, what I'm going to do is help you consciously find what you need to emotionally integrate, what awareness to look out for so that you can better align with this lunar cycle, and also how you can take advantage of these transits. So stick around to the end of the video and also find out why I've got moving boxes on the thumbnail. So I think it's good to quickly recap what was taking place and being initiated with the new moon in Capricorn. So there are two things that were going on. Firstly, there was the paradox. There was this emergent energy that was coming through, that was bubbling to the surface that said, hey, there's a new direction on the horizon, right? There's a new sense of purpose that we want to give our attention to, that we want to allow our emotional feelings to be poured into. And then there's this part of us that's saying, hold on, the timing of this is not quite ready yet. We're not mature enough to take this step into this big unknown place, this unknown world. And for you, you've got to look at what it is in your life that you want to make a new direction in, right? What's this new forging path that you want to take, whatever that may be for you. So you're going to look in that direction and you're going to ask yourself, what emotional dynamics is holding me back, right? So this new moon in Capricorn really initiated the paradox of taking a step forward and saying, oh, this is amazing, but hang on, I'm not ready to do that yet, and I need to go and figure out what that is. The other part of this was coming into a sense that where are you defining yourself, right? Are you caught up in the distractions of the outside world? Are you allowing your direction to be deeply impacted and influenced by the information that you can be getting from the outside world, the cues, the stimulus? The question here with number two is, how are you consciously aware of the distractions that are pulling you in different directions that are not allowing you to feel that you can be in alignment with your inner sense? So that's the two things that were really taking place with the initiation of this lunar cycle, right? That was the new moon in Capricorn. So as we step into this full moon now, we're starting to get prepared for what the Cancer archetype is wanting to teach us. So I think it's important for us to look at the Cancer archetype a little bit more deeply. This is going to help us get a sense of what the energy is present and available for us and how to identify it and emotionally integrate it, and how we can actually move forward with this energy as a vehicle for our evolutionary dynamics. So if you have planets in your fourth house, if you have planets in Cancer, which is where the full moon is taking place, this is something that I encourage you to think about on a constant basis beyond this full moon, right? Because these planets are with you for your whole entire soul's journey, right? The fourth house energy, the Cancer archetype, as well as if you've got planets in the fourth house. And then for the rest of us that will have, this full moon just landing in the sign Cancer, but we've got no planets there, this is going to be a temporary experience. But of course, look at the houses that this new and full moon is landing in, right? So if it's in your seventh house, your first house, look at those houses, because that's where you'll have some awareness around those themes, right? So the first thing that you want to look at with the Cancer archetype is living a life of normalcy, living a life of the ordinary. Now, again, for those of you that have got planets in the fourth house, you've got planets in Cancer, you'll know what I mean by this. What I'm saying here is that the Cancer archetype is feminine and yin in its nature. So it's not about our hero quest. It's about forging very deep interpersonal relationships with the people around us, right? It's how do I feel? How does that person feel? And how do we interconnect in a way where there is union or emotional discord? Where is our sense of identity and the other person's sense of identity connecting? And how do those sensitivities, how do those emotions and feelings gel with each other or not? So a big part of your life, the big part of the Cancer archetype, is teaching us emotional chemistry. And for us as human beings, emotional chemistry is important. If we're going to be in relations with people that we live with, people in our home, you've got to know that living a life of ordinary, living a life of the mundane, and being very present with just those close moments, those magical moments, those sensitive moments, those vulnerable moments are going to be important to you. That's a big part of your story. And so for this full moon, understanding temporarily, in your life, look at the relationships that you have. Look at the chemistry. Start to identify within yourself, how does your relationships work at an emotional level? And start to come down to the earth plane, right? A lot of us are out there in the world, we're achieving things, we're doing this, we're doing that. But the Cancer archetype pulls us inward to the home and says, how is your most immediate relationship with your daughter, your wife, your business partner, as an example? How are those working and functioning, right? Is there emotions that need to be processed? Number 2, processing grief, okay? The Cancer archetype helps us understand that there is a very thin boundary between our physical body and our inner emotional world and the huge ocean of the rest of the world in front of us. There is a boundary between our internal emotional world and all of the complexity of the big world. And so naturally, as we go out into the big world, as we deal with things, as we have conflict, as we step out into places that are vulnerable for us, we need to really connect with our inner emotional world and how that relates to the big world. And so a lot of the times our internal space will feel like, oh, I wish I could be protected, yeah, or this is vulnerable for me, but that person didn't know it was vulnerable to me. And so, that person's scary, or that relationship is intense, or, this new job is scary, right? There's always a dynamic between you and the outside world. And a lot of the times those experiences are going to feel to our Cancer part of ourselves as very sensitive, very vulnerable, very unprotected. And we're going to have some really intense experiences, some negative experiences. We're going to become aware of the world in the way that it's not always going to support us or be sensitive to us. So how do we process those big feelings, those grief feelings, the feelings of loss, the feelings of turbulence, the feelings that are oftentimes, when we experience them as intense, how do we deal with those processes? So the Cancer archetype invites us to withdraw inwards to ourselves and learn how to cultivate emotional resilience, right? What does emotional regulation look like? What does it mean when we go out into the world and we feel strong and we feel comfortable and confident in ourselves and saying, this is an interview that I'm going to ace, right? Where I know this is going to be tough, but I'm going to show up to the best of my ability. Right? How do we take that Cancerian energy relative to our inner emotional work and feel confident and forge an inner relationship to our emotions so that when we do go out into the big world, we can handle it, we can process it. Part of this process, part of this full moon in Cancer is our capacity to look inwardly within ourselves and say, I'm ready to take this step in this new direction. I'm ready to come out into the world and, become aware that there are sensitivities that I can interact with, but I can handle them. Number 3, and the last one for this Cancer archetype, our sense of belonging. See, as I talked about in number 1, I said this is where we forge these very interpersonal relations, right? How do we feel the chemistry in our family, within our close friends, within people that are, that are close to us? How do we forge that? How does that work? How do we keep working on that? Well, here, in terms of the sense of belonging, the Cancer archetype also helps us understand that having a sense of groundedness, a place that we can come back to and say, this is safe for me, right, is very important. So for those of you, like I said, who have planets in the 4th house or have Cancer archetype planets in Cancer, this is a big deal to you, So think about your home. Think about the place that is safe, that you can process these big feelings that I talk about in number 2. And also safe places that you can connect to and have deep, intimate, and vulnerable conversations with those that you feel a deep emotional bond with, right? To allow those emotions to come through to the surface. Because a sense of belonging doesn't necessarily have to be a home. It can be a place that you come to, that you find, that you feel safe within, that allows you to open up to these deeper realms. Okay, now for this full moon, understanding a sense of belonging is helpful because when you step out into the world, when you step out into this new adventure that Jupiter in Aries is calling for us, and Mars turning direct very soon, wanting us to come out into the world, you have to know where your centeredness is. So things like breathing exercises, right? Getting grounded in your feet. When I talk about living in the ordinary, I'm talking about not the adventure out in the world, but the place that you can come to every day, every night, wherever, depending on what your cycles are about. And you can come to that and say, this is where I belong. This is my sense. And for a lot of you that don't actually, that are working with Cancer archetype themes, you may not feel that. So this is what you are forging, right? With this full moon, the potential to look at where I can start to see my family. I can start to see loved one. I can start to see my inner emotional world, and also the place that I belong, my sense of home, right? Familiarity. What are my values? These are important themes that not only correspond to this full moon in terms to think about, but also in terms of just when you have transits in the Cancer archetype. All right, so we're looking at this chart over here, and you can see, of course, there are 3 arrows, and these 3 arrows are pointing to the nodes, right? Scorpio, Taurus, with Uranus there sitting at 15 degrees, and then you can see the other arrow pointing to Venus and Pluto. Now, this is a big deal, okay? I want to emphasize here that this planetary aspect between Venus and Pluto is probably why, over the last 2 weeks, many of you have been experiencing deep emotional releases. I bet you can identify with that. In fact, I want to see this process. So if you could write in the comments, yes, I went through an emotional release, because this is a good thing. I want to reinforce that if you did have emotional release during this time, right, between the new moon and now, what you were ultimately getting rid of was the culmination energy, right? Pluto and Venus were moving closer together, and this tension of emotional release and pressure needed to occur. And then Pluto said, right, now it's time to eliminate that. Now that Pluto and Venus are in a new phase, as you can see on the chart now, this energy is what I'm talking about when I say that there is something fresh, there's something new, there's something to become excited about. Something new and exciting is happening in your life, right? Whether it be that you've just decided to take a new job, whether it's decided to step out into the open and do something new for yourself, whether it's a dietary change, whether it's doing more exercise, whatever that may be, there's a new pattern that is coming into your life, and what you want to do is go with that, right? But if you are still carrying the baggage of that unprocessed stuff that happened pre this pattern, it's a good idea to really get down to the bottom of what that is about, and through whatever means, get it to the surface, acknowledge it, let it get out, so that this energy, this energy that you have available to you right now with Venus and Pluto can fill up that space with new joy and excitement, okay? It's going to be scary, and I encourage you to recognize that that scary part means it's something new. Your brain is mapping new neurological pathways. Okay, so now in this chart, what I want to highlight is, of course, the Sun at 16 degrees Cancer with Mercury retrograde on top of it, and then you can see the Moon in Cancer at 16 degrees as well. Notice that Jupiter is sitting there in Aries, right, 1 degree, but Chiron is actually sitting there also at 12 degrees Aries. And the reason why I'm bringing this to the surface is because this is cardinal energy, okay? Capricorn, Cancer, and Libra are cardinal signs, of course, with Aries, the one, don't want to forget Aries. But these are cardinal signs. So cardinal signs are energies that initiate change, right? Step into a new direction. So this is I call it the supporting cast, right? New phase, Pluto, Venus comes into play. There's something new that's emerging for us. And then these cardinal energies, which is where the Cancer Capricorn axis is, where the new and full moons are taking place. This is about emotionally integrating. So I talk about integration, emotional integration. Well, it's emotionally integrating the Aries component of I'm here. Okay, let's do this. I don't know where it's going. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I've got to do it, right? So that's what I want you to embody. I want you to embody this. I want you to recognize that which wants to change. And then along with this energy, let the stars guide you to say, I'm ready to embody this Jupiter energy. I'm going to show up, right? I'm going to be here. I'm just going to try it out. I'm going to be in that space. I'm going to take up space. And the Cancer Capricorn axis is about emotionally integrating, right? We want to begin to associate new experiences somatically with us. So it just means showing up. It doesn't mean going out there and, just show up for the process, be with it, and forge new emotional patterns. That's what's available right now, okay? So there is a slight caveat that I want to bring to this conversation, which is, this is a 2-step forward, 1-step back process. And what I mean by this is that you're going to go out there and you're going to try something new. Like I said, you're going to show up and then it's going to feel awkward. It's going to feel different. You may not have that security in you to say, this is something that I feel comfortable with, and then you're going to take a step back. And this is good, right? You want to go back. You want to address where those insecurities are, full moon in Cancer, and then you want to take another step forward. And you want to do this consistently until eventually you feel that internal security. By the way, I just want to quickly say that I'm going to be soon opening up some more spaces for one-to-one guidance. Now, for many of you know that I don't do one-to-one readings anymore. I prefer to work on a longer-term scale with people. I find that that is where the real magic of transformation and deep soul work takes place. And so if you would like to work with me on a longer term and you want to experience deeper transformation, then below there is an actual link to a call, a free 15-minute call. Schedule that with me. Let's have a chat. Let's see if your needs can be met by me, if I'm in a position to help you, and if there is a possibility for us to do some really great work together. I'm really excited about this. I'm always excited about working with people. Many of the people that I've worked with in the past, I've just been deeply grateful to be able to see people's lives change in many ways. So down below in the description, it's a link. Set a 15-minute call with me. Let's see if your needs and your current space right now can fit long-term work, and if it does, then that's fantastic. Okay, so we're looking at chart 3 right now, and the points that I wanted to highlight for us, of course, is here Venus sitting at 4 degrees on my ascendant, and the Jupiter sitting at 0 or 1 degrees of Aries. Right, Venus is actually about to go into what is called a square to the nodes, and also Saturn is unaspected. Now, this is really interesting to me because Venus in Aquarius gives a very different vibe to Venus in Capricorn. Okay, it's now in this phase. Venus is in this phase of really asking you, what can you get rid of? What can you detach from? So I was saying earlier that a big part of moving forward with this full moon energy is about asking yourself, what can I downsize, right? What can I detach from? What can I decrease from? So that I can then have more space to fill up with the things that I really like. So in this case over here, Venus is very important in understanding that moving forward with this energy and taking up space and moving in a direction requires us to also look at what we can get rid of in our lives that are holding us back, right? Making it smaller so that you can really fill up the space with your dreams, with your desires, and of course, in a deeper alignment with this value system that you have been forging for the last few years with all these deep transits that we've been going through. So that's a very important aspect. It tells a great story. I hope that that comes across for you and that you can make sense of it. The Jupiter in Aries, of course, is important in the sense that it's continuously just creating that pattern of something new emerging for us. So it's important to take a look at that Jupiter and the way that you can actually take advantage of it. Like I said, consistently through this video is you want to show up in this space. So the message that you can get from this full moon in Cancer is that there is something new on the horizon for us. We know this. There's a potential, a possibility, something exciting that's emerging. And some of you may be already doing this in many ways. The idea here is to begin looking at what is holding you back. So downsizing, right? In decrease, remove the things that are holding you back, whether that's emotional fears, whether that's emotional, is that trauma, whether that's physical attachments that are no longer part of your life anymore, whatever that may be. Identify the thing that feels like it's holding you back and ask yourself the question, can I limit this? Can I get rid of this? Can I put it in the moving box and ship it out?